and welcome to part 3 of season 1, episode 4 of Stargate Atlantis, episode Suspicion. And we're getting right into it, where we see the Athosians getting ready to leave. And we see Teyla entering in her human uniform, although she is still wearing her Athosian shirt. At this point, I'm pretty sure the wardrobe department was playing around with her outfit, telling its own little story beneath the main story. Although it is notable that although she's still wearing her Athosian shirt, her human uniform jacket mostly obscures it. In fact, when she talks to Elizabeth later, we won't even be able to see her Athosian shirt. So it's a bit of visual storytelling to go with the fact that she had thrown her lot with the humans. And I have to say, it really breaks my heart that earlier in the episode, Holling accused Teyla that she didn't speak up for her people with the humans. She didn't defend her people to the humans enough. And in this moment, when the Athosians are leaving, her own people just leave without telling her without defending her at all. I mean, in this moment, she really needed just one of her people to be a friend, to be one of the people who grew up with her. Like, these people have known her all their lives, and she has known them all their lives, and they just leave without a word. And it is in this moment where she finally breaks and she shows her vulnerability and she cracks, and instead of remaining the strong aloof leader, she begs Harling, just, do you understand why I'm doing this for you? I'm doing this for you. I'm not abandoning you. This has to be done. I need to stay here and I have to fight against the Wraith. I have to fight. And I have to prove that none of us were the traitor. And Harling doesn't do anything. He doesn't assure her. Like, I don't even ask sympathy from him. Just one moment where he acknowledges that, yes, he understands, or even if he doesn't understand, just a single moment where he tells her they know she's not abandoning them. They might not understand her reasoning. They might not understand why she's doing this, but they are still her people, and she's still part of them. Even if he doesn't even acknowledge that she's still their leader, just acknowledging she's part of them. But he doesn't. He just tells her it's time and then leaves. And yes, as the Athosians are leaving, where we get this scene, on the one hand, it is a payoff for the relationship we've seen being developed for both Teyla and Elizabeth, between the two of them. But as Teyla is on her own, watching her people go, like, I would like to point out, John isn't here either. He talks a big talk about her being part of his team, but in this moment when she needs a friend the most, granted he probably doesn't know, but still in this moment where she needs someone to be in her corner the most, the only person who comes to her is Elizabeth. And nobody's saying to her, Elizabeth is the only one who recognizes Teyla needs someone. And in this moment, then, the thing Teyla gets to ask is, she asks Elizabeth if Elizabeth ever doubts that the humans will go back to Earth. We are to understand, and that is how we understand it, that if Elizabeth doesn't doubt that they will go back to Earth, then Teyla can take that to mean she won't doubt either. But Elizabeth tells her that she can't afford to have doubts. And in this moment of vulnerability, but also insight and honesty, which are hallmarks that are completely Teyla's. That is like the core of her character. She has this insight and this honesty, and she tells Elizabeth she understands it's not that Elizabeth can't have doubts or don't have doubts, it's that she can't afford to show them. And she's basically asking the same question she asked Holling. But it's Elizabeth, not her own people, not Holling, not her own people, not any of the people she grew up with who answers her. But Elizabeth, who, although she doesn't answer the direct question Teyla just asked her, in effect, she is answering the question Teyla asked Holling earlier. And Elizabeth is the one who tells Teyla that she knows why Teyla is doing this. She knows why Teyla is staying behind, and she knows her people, like Teyla's people, also knows why she is staying behind. The comfort that Holling and her people couldn't give her, Elizabeth does give her. And then we see Teyla this single shot, and it's a very lonely shot. It's in this moment, Teyla's in the same cool colors as Atlantis. It's almost as if Atlantis won at this point, and it's very sad. And I really do feel for her at this. No, that's saying it wrong. It really resonates with me. Not so long ago, my husband and I left our country, our families, our continents. We traveled over 2 continents and an ocean away from our families, and we haven't seen them in all that time. Like, it's been several years and we haven't seen our families. And I feel Teyla's loneliness. It's even though, and that's worth mentioning as well, even though Elizabeth came to comfort Teyla, and even though on this side we have found some great friends, there is an emptiness and a loneliness that is uniquely ours. Back to the episode, we cut to the off-world team getting ready to step through the gate. And they're all assembled. It's both John's team and another team. And obviously, they can now step through the gate. Off-world activities have resumed now that the Athosians are away from Atlantis. And I feel that Teyla's putting on a very brave face, but she must know this. And it must sting that she knows the humans suspected one of the Athosians. At least none of them really suspected her. Like, her people might be gone, and she is still there, but they are trusting her. So it has its upside and its downside. Also at this point, although we will come back to this much later, I would like to point out the difference in height between Rodney and Elizabeth, as in there isn't any. I mean, even though there's a little bit of a difference in perspective, the two of them are practically the same height. I'll look it up later. It's just as they've been moving, we can see that they are practically the same height. Teyla, however, she's very tiny. She's still pretty short. And then we have them all nicely assembled, ready to step through the gates. And they go to a planet where there are some ruins, and I don't know if this is green screen and props or shot on location. I feel like there might be a location with a clearing in the middle of the woods that all the Star Treks are shot at. I don't know if they would have, if they always use the same clearing, if they have like a shed nearby with the props, the correct gate, or if not, then they would probably have to move the gate there every time. I think it must have been very exciting if you've lived in the area and you're just a person on the highway, you see this truck passing by and it has this round shaped thing covered in a tarp, and you know, oh wow, that's the Stargate on its way to location. How very cool. It's okay, maybe for people who live near filming locations, it's not that cool. It's probably not that cool to run into a celebrity when you live in California, but have a heart. I grew up in a small town in Africa. I still had some run-ins with some of the local celebrities. Never had a run-in with a more international celebrity. Like, no one I've ever met has ever appeared on an international screen, as far as I know. So, and I would have been tickled pink if I'd seen the Stargate go by. And John asks Teyla if she can coax some of the natives out to give them a hand with the translation of the writings on the rocks, as it's taking a bit of a while. Apparently, it's a weird dialect of ancient or whatever. And although she protests, John sends forward with her. And nobody says anything, but we all know, as again, we're supposed to know without having our hands held, that the only reason Ford is going with Teyla is to keep an eye on her, to make sure that she isn't the traitor. On the other hand, I do want to note that this world hasn't established that much protocol concerning off-world teams. Even SG1 notes, somewhere in season 9, I think, with Cameron Mitchell, that there's no reason why there has to be 4 people on an off-world team. It's just kind of how it's done. But, I mean, it still feels like good protocol to always send 2 of your people down together so they can have one another's backs. Also, of course, at this point, if the Wraith show up and Ford is with Teyla all the way, then he can be her witness that she wasn't the one to summon the Wraith. And we get this shot, and if it looks familiar, it's one of those used in the opening credits. I have to say, John does look very unhappy about the way things are playing out with Teyla. And I would like to note that her hair is very bright. I don't know if it's a wig, and I have to say I'm not that stressed about it being a wig or her real hair, unlike with Sue Ann Braun, because the first time I remember seeing Rachel Littrell is in this series. To me, she's first and foremost Teyla from Stargate. So after they've gone a little while without seeing anyone, Teyla tells Ford that the natives won't come out as long as he's with her. And she also tells him that he shouldn't worry about her, that she will be safe with him. But that isn't the real issue, is it? The reason Ford is with her is because someone needs to keep an eye on her. But by her framing it as she will be safe, she is giving Ford an out. She is giving him the little lie to believe if he so wants to. And Ford chooses to believe the lie, or pretend to believe the lie, and he tells her he'll hang back a bit. And she goes off on her own, making both us and the characters suspect her when, of course, inevitably, the Wraith do show up. And poor Ford, he knows he messed up. He should have stayed with Teyla, but she's gone, and he doesn't know. He literally doesn't know if he's coming or going. Should he go after Teyla or should he go back to the gate? When he does tell John what has happened, though, at least John doesn't berate him. He just tells him to get himself and get Teyla and get back to the gate, because the Wraith are there. And we get this shot. It's John's turn to get a Wraith stunner to the shoulder, which is important. It's to the shoulder. It's not to the head like Rodney had it. And it's the shoulder. I mean, all movies and series have shown us that there's this one reliable part of the human body that can get shot without the human dying. I mean, it's not biology, but it is storytelling. So at least John has the good grace to pass out, and they have to carry him through the gate. And this also gives the plot a reason to shut the gate after they've gone through, but before Teyla and Ford has gone through. This guy gives the order for them to go through, and he seems to have different priorities from John. I mean, we know that John makes a big thing about not leaving people behind, which is again something we'll come back to much later in this series, which is again a betrayal of John's character as far as I'm concerned. But this guy, and I don't know, I don't think it's Markham or Stackhouse. So I don't know who this guy is. I haven't Googled it. But this guy isn't wrong when he says it's dangerous that there are wraith who will be coming through the gate. It's just he's not wrong. He just isn't John. And then we have the school shot. I always get kind of giddy when we see the people coming through the gate. Like, I know it's CGI, but I just love it. I love seeing the nothing, and then people just appearing. I love it. That's it. It's a cool shot. It's again, you can see the camera work is fine. We don't get a lot of these top-down shots in the rest of the series. And then we have a great moment of growth for Rodney, because he is actually pretty insistent that they go back for Teyla and Ford. I would like to remind you that his introduction in SG1 was the episode where he was okay with, or he kind of argued that they should just let Teal'c die. And so he's obviously come a long way from those ignoble days. And then in a scene that's reminiscent of Rising, you remember the first episode, Elizabeth is once more refusing to send a rescue mission without knowing all the facts and knowing the rescue team will survive the retrieval. I feel it's a brilliant moment of subversion. In Rising, we could have thought that Elizabeth was just hedging when she tells John that she's not going to send a rescue team without knowing the team has any chance of coming back alive. We could argue that she was just saying that to appease John. But now there are two people missing on the planet for whom she cares. I mean, she has this tender friendship with Teyla, and she has shown that she cares for her people. So she's worried about them. She will want a rescue team, but she's sticking to her guns. She first needs to know that both the people that need to be rescued and the rescue team will come back safely. She was sincere in Rising. That's really how she argues. That's how she thinks. The rescue team safety is of as much a concern as the people missing. And we can see it's driving Rodney insane, but it's really consistent characterization. It's good writing. Of course, Bates immediately pounces on exactly the thing John has tried to head off, implying that Teyla had summoned the Wraith. Fortunately, John only took a Wraith stunner to the shoulder, not to the face, and unlike Rodney, he is already up and on his feet. And in another moment of showing Rodney's growth, when Bates still accuses Teyla of summoning the Wraith, Rodney is genuinely upset at the notion and jumps to Teyla's defense. Part of me feel we could have wondered if Rodney isn't racist. He didn't think he could let Teal'c die because Teal'c's an alien. He was just a pessimist. And now he's worried not just because Ford is in trouble, but because Teyla's in trouble too. Like, he doesn't have a lot of people he's really worried about, but Teyla and Ford are two people he really cares about, and so he will defend them at all times. It has nothing to do with being alien or not. Those are his people. And on the other hand, he is a pessimist. So he is a pessimist, but he will do everything he can to save and help the people that are his. Of course, John also jumps to Teyla's defense. And I have to say, although Bates is technically and coldly correct that the only team encountering the Wraith is Teyla's, or is John's, and Teyla is the only remaining Athosian on Atlantis. I mean, he is correct. And I know the writers are inviting us to reluctantly agree with Bates at this point. Like, if you analyze it just a little bit, you can see that the writers are saying this. They are almost demanding us to be on Bates's side. And I respect the writing, but I really hate that they are inviting us to be on Bates's side. I really don't like him. And third, the tense moment is interrupted by an unscheduled off-world activation. And Teyla messages, and she says that they are under fire. But Bates says that Atlantis might be inviting a Wraith attack by lowering the shield. And this effectively puts Elizabeth in the position where she has to choose whether she trusts Teyla or if she chooses to follow Bates's advice, who she appointed as the head of security on Atlantis, as she tells John later. Also, again, if this shot looks familiar, it is the same shot used in the opening credits. And the camera crew really worked hard with angles in this episode. That unfortunately is something that seems to disappear later in most series. I have to admit, it happens in most series. The unique shots and directing and concepts often get flattened down to more regular shots, to more regular storytelling. One that comes to mind as one of the worst offenders is Criminal Minds. In the first season or two, every time they talk about the unsub and they describe who the unsub is, although we don't have a face, we do see what they're describing. We see the probable scenario play out behind them. It takes a lot of directing, I suppose, and some extra money and extra writing, but it's very cool. It puts us in the mind of what could have happened without actually seeing it. And later on, that completely went away. Quietly, didn't even realize that only when we did a rewatch, a binge, did we notice that it had this very strong thing in the beginning and it just flattened. And the way the story was told was much more like those of regular crime dramas, which isn't wrong. It's something that a lot of series lose, probably because of budgetary reasons, but also I think they get kind of set in their ways. I don't know. This thing I read, I don't know. There might be several reasons. Anyway, just so you know, that guy looks like Sylvester Stallone light. In fact, it actually looks like the bastard offspring of Sylvester Stallone and the really attractive Guahul who asked for sanctuary from Elizabeth, the guy Camillus. He looks like the bastard offspring of Sylvester Stallone and Camillus. So, yay! Anyway, of course, the episode at this point tries to raise the stakes even more, and at this point, I have to admit I don't like this. Elizabeth is trying to confirm that what Teyla is saying is true, that they are under attack. But Teyla tells them, she asks this of Ford, but Teyla tells them that Ford is unconscious. And Bates, of course, he keeps pushing that Elizabeth shouldn't drop the shield. She's inviting the Wraith. And she's, if not indecisive, she's still thinking, she's trying to decide which is the best course of action. And then John yells at her to open the damn gate. And I don't care if John is annoyed at Bates at this point. Yelling at Elizabeth is wrong. And not because I don't like men yelling at women, but because it feels like character assassination of John's character. Up to now, he had quite a few times disagreed with Elizabeth, that's true, but he had always gone out of his way to respect her leadership. I think I actually mentioned this, that we should note how in Rising, when he disagrees with her, he asks her aside. He talks to her person to person where no one else can see the disagreement, so that the two of them can have a united front, but also that his respect of her is carried through to other people. It's like he knows she has a hard time, or she will have a hard time having the respect of others, because she is in military and because she is a woman, and he tries to help her as much as he can. But this is just undermining her authority, and it's not within his character. At this point, it makes me wonder if the character even ever respected Elizabeth, or if it was just a show. I mean, the moment he's under pressure, he yells at her, he loses that respect. And I don't like it that the writers or the directors and or writers put this in here. And immediately I can just I can suggest off the top of my head that him just being anxious and really saying her name like Elizabeth, it's like you put that pressure on her without becoming an asshole, without undermining her, without yelling at her. It's a weird moment. It's weird. And part of me is been wondering if, or has thought, that there might have been a bit of a power struggle, one which doesn't need to exist in this story and is not a power struggle of the characters, a power struggle behind the scenes. This is a small moment, but it does so much damage to John's character and the relationship between him and Elizabeth. Up to here, I've been willing to ship them, like from the cute scene at the end of 38 minutes, which is just the previous episode. And now I'm thinking that maybe Elizabeth should have tossed him off of the balcony. Just gently toss. You don't want to damage him, but just gently toss him off the balcony for a little bit. Anyway, in the end, it is Elizabeth's call, and though all the men around her are putting pressure on her to make a certain decision, I'd like to think that when she does tell them to lower the shield, she did it not because of the different pressures, but because she decided to trust Teyla. And also 10 out of 10 for the gate technician for waiting on Elizabeth's orders. Bates, however, hasn't happened. I feel like he is the type of character to take this personally. The fact that Elizabeth didn't back him or didn't take his advice, he's going to take it personally, and it would explain why he was so willing to stab her in the back later on in Hot Zone, like he had decided she is not a worthy leader. Teyla drags Ford and herself to safety, but she is surprised when she sees the soldiers surrounding them. And then we have the next scene, and John is in character here. He's back to his character. It's just him, Bates, and Elizabeth, and he is vehemently, but not hostilely, arguing in Teyla's defense. He says that this couldn't have been her fault. There must be a different explanation. And it's to Elizabeth's credit that she doesn't interfere when John dismisses Bates. Not just doesn't listen to him, but tells him, now you go. Bye, boy. She at least knows that she knows how this works, and John is the ranking military officer, and if she's going to trust him, she should let him do his job the way he sees it. And I've honestly always felt like they did Elizabeth dirty in this episode, which is one of the reasons why I've never liked this episode. Or they suspect Teyla of being a Wraith sympathizer. Teyla's people are horrible. John yells at Elizabeth, and then Elizabeth isn't allowed to defend herself in this moment. Although I feel she really does get her points across. I feel that without saying a single thing, she lets John know that he had overstepped his bounds. But so they didn't do Elizabeth dirty, really, but they did put a blot on John's character. Um, as I said, I feel like there's this power struggle behind the scenes. Like someone wanted to push the character of John to be the leader, to be the one who's always correct. Often SG1 Hammond is kind of not correct, and Jack is the one to be the one to kind of always be right. And I feel like they wanted this to be with the character of John as well. Like he has to be not just be the main character, which he is, but also to be the leader, the de facto leader of the Atlantis mission. And which we will see, which really comes to head in Hot Zone, I feel. I mean, I feel the only good thing I can say about this is at least it gets resolved, and pretty soon. It gets tempered, I suppose. But I hate this direction of John's character. And anyway, we're getting on there in time again, and I guess I'll have to make do with that. I guess I've said my piece. I do want to leave off with this shot. Again, the camera work is good, and although John and Elizabeth are in the same room, you can see that they are separated. There is a great separation between them. And then the final shot is Elizabeth, not just separate, but isolated, lonely. Her one biggest defender had been John, and now they're at odds and there's no one there. She's as isolated as Teyla is. Teyla is isolated, Elizabeth is isolated, and it's a lovely symmetry and reflection of the two women. And I hope that this was thought of in the writing. I thought this was deliberate. I hope this was thought out deliberately. I also feel that it's kind of despite John yelling at Elizabeth. I mean, maybe it does occur to me that maybe they had this separation between John and Elizabeth, wrote that bit in to show the distance between John and Elizabeth, so that we can see her isolation, so that we can see she's as isolated as Teyla. It's just a bad moment then. It didn't work, I feel. I mean, it did work, but it worked too well, maybe. John is supposed to be the golden boy. And for him yelling at her, undermining her, it's a bad character beat. It's also bad in another way. John lost his cool. Throughout the rest of the series, they kind of go out of their way to show how John is very collected and controlled during a crisis. It's literally one of his biggest strengths. I mean, you don't get to see him using his superpower of having the ancient gene that much, but you do see him being cool under pressure. And losing his cool like that, it's very massively out of character. And I think the person who either wrote it or directed it, or both of them, needs to gently be pushed off the balcony as well. Anyway, on that note, I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you next time.